I am super excited today on this Good Sunday, and I'm just checking us out on Facebook to make sure that we are connected well. I am super excited on this here Sunday because I am about to share with you some folks who are really helping teachers in the school systems, and teachers are the best people to support other teachers. We've had a lot of issues and concerns in the U.S. education system, and they were happening before now. But I would say that some of in the past 3 to 4 years, they have really been highlighted, and there were a lot of issues that people did not know were happening in the school system, and now it's out there. People know, everyone is aware. And so for those who may not be as in tune, or maybe you are, have a different type of system that you're working in, because we have private schools, public schools, charter schools, some people are homeschooling, whatever the situation may be. But COVID-19, first of all, opened our eyes to a lot of situations that were happening in the schools, and it also impacted the schools in a very adverse way because students lost a lot of learning. But in addition, the workload that teachers had to be under, because teachers then had to teach in person, online, switch immediately to online. There was a lot going on, and that impacted some mental health. Because when teachers went home, look here, let me tell you, I got boys who were in high school. I didn't have any little kids. And when those kids went online, I said to myself, how are teachers with kids who are 2, 3, 4, 5? How are they doing this? This is crazy. I had a ninth grader and a seventh grader, and I had to stop a lot of things I was doing, but I had the ability to be able to do that. And I know that there were a lot of educators who were not able to do that. And then here lately, we have these school shootings that is very traumatizing. I'm not in the schools full time, but it put fear in me. And then testing expectations have not changed, which is a whole nother situation, and just the stress and burnout. And so I think this is a really important conversation that we have, and that we share how educators are best positioned to help other educators, because we truly understand the pressures that we're under, the anxiety, the stress, as well as the reward and the joy of being teachers. And so I want to introduce to you all, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But we're going to start with Miss Cultivated Connections here. Tangerine, give us a good introduction of who you are and what you do, and how you're supporting teachers in during these times.
Yes. Hey, y'all. Y'all about to get this good Sunday energy, okay? I am Tangeray Porter, founder and chief vision strategist with Cultivated Connections Design and Consulting, and I help teachers cultivate healing, social awareness, and education through the arts. Okay. So you get into this creativity, you get into some healing inside of your classroom for you and your students. So that's one way that I support. Just teaching teachers how to do arts integration strategies inside of their classrooms to make the learning fun, right? Like learning is supposed to be fun, but also to help arts educators learn how to create a fabulous curriculum, because y'all already know what it is. We as arts educators are the stepchildren of the school. We don't get the PDs. Okay. Period. Put.
All right. And if you're with us live, give us a hey, what's up, what's going on? Speak to the folks that are here sharing their time with us. And if you're catching this in the replay, give us a hashtag replay. We got the IEP coach. Come on and tell us how you supporting these teachers and a little bit about who you are.
Hey everybody. First off, let me say Ramadan Mubarak to everyone that is still fasting. This is like our last week. It went by so fast. So I am Jamila, aka the IEP coach, and I am the founder of the IEP Coach LLC, where we help principals keep their special education teachers from leaving. Because I've been in the classroom, I've been there. We don't get PD tiered to our needs. So that's where we come in at. We've been there, we've done that. So we come in and we tailor the professional development and the group coaching to the needs of the teachers. And they're more likely to stay because they feel supported, they're getting the resources that they need, and they have someone that can relate to exactly what they're doing and what they're going through. So that's what we do. And we also support parents with understanding the special education process as well as the IEP process, because we all know if our parents are more empowered, they are more likely to advocate for their children.
All right, come on, Anika.
All right. So my name is Anika S. Jones. Y'all know how I feel about the S. Please say the S, okay? I am the lead consultant of Holistic Fluency, y'all. I'm a math and SEL expert, but especially leaning into that SEL space because we believe that everyone should be seen, studied, and supported. So sometimes people go into Regina Hall mode, right? Who are your target audience? Who are your just what? Everybody, y'all, everybody, because everybody has interactions. All of us are working on our interpersonal and intrapersonal skills, you all. So, like Jamila said, when we work with adults that support children, especially those at home, because we want to make sure that they have those skills, those tools to continue helping the young people grow away from the schoolhouse, right? But also in corporate spaces, we're working on developing the organizational culture, making sure that the team leader is great, that they're still not just shining, being the bright spot themselves, that they're able to duplicate and multiply themselves. So the whole space is brilliant. So definitely get in touch with us, y'all, to help foster and work on your organizational culture, whether your organization is at your house or in your workplace, because that's where we are. That's where we thrive. That's where we add value.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So we wanted to do this session today because we know that there is a lot going on. And as we've stated, we believe that teachers are best positioned to help other teachers. You know, we've all been in the learning, we've all been in the situations where folks come in, they are training, and it's just not transferable. They don't understand what it is we do, what a real classroom looks like, or any of that. And so with everything that's going on, and I'll just speak directly to, you know, COVID-19, that changed everything. It highlighted some huge gaps in the system. Anybody want to share about some of the gaps that you saw that were highlighted and how you were able, have been able to support?
I would definitely, okay. I was gonna say, I would definitely say the social emotional, where there was a social emotional spaces from the adults, right? Especially the educators, because a lot of times, you know, we really do put emphasis, understandably, on the scholars, right? But the spotlight, the unwellness and everything that the adults in the building, admin down to paras, classroom educators, it was really, really emphasized that what the expectation was, right? Where they wanted people to be versus the reality. It really shone a spotlight. So everything from being able to articulate the needs, everything from identifying what is the emotion, what is really the cause of the problem, what's the source, that was just really emphasized, I'll say, at that time. And you know what? And sometimes I give people some pushback, because we talk about the learning loss of COVID-19, but when we talk about the social emotional side, we say there's a delay. I'm like, well, aren't we talking about the same people though? So should we just realize and understand that both of the timetables need to be adjusted a bit, that there's just delays. They're going to get both. We need to put in a different kind of work, different kind of effort to get them there though, because it's the same people. So it can't be a loss on one side and a delay on the other side. That's just my thing.
Yes, I would definitely say when COVID hit and everybody was reaching back for the creative education and the arts, I was like, put some respect on our name, please. It was then where, I mean, everybody knows that creativity and the arts and all of that are important, right? Like we say it, but in America, we don't stand by it, especially across the nation. You got the New York that's like here for it. You got the California that's here for it. Those two meccas, and even Georgia, I would say Georgia is also another great place to, you know, thrive in the arts. But when COVID-19 hit, the world, of course, shut down. We was there. We felt it. But I just remember like social media, like, well, I need something creative for my students to do. Or how can I make this learning situation more engaging? It's always been there, arts and arts integration, but yet we're the first ones to get cut. So I can definitely say that was one of the biggest things that I saw, but also one of the biggest gaps for us as arts educators, because we had not been practicing using technology in the art space as much as we could have. And my little techie self was very excited because I was like, oh my goodness, new learnings and findings. So it pushed all of us to show up differently, right? Like we all became YouTube content creators for a hot little minute there. Don't lose that, y'all.
We were all vloggers for sure.
We were tapping into a space that we never thought we would be. Like we all are fluent in Zoom now, Restream, all these things. So that's definitely one of the biggest things that I saw the most. And just the opportunity for us to experience the arts virtually. Like I done went to more concerts in 2020 than I ever have in person. That's my take.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can hear me? Okay, good. I put my earbuds in. I would say from the special education side, I said, oh my God, that's how I felt because I would say at that time, that was the hardest I had ever worked. And I'm at that time, I was in special education for like 14 years. I had never worked that hard because now we have to deliver services virtually, which were in person, counseling, group counseling, individual counseling, speech, OT, some of those things. I'm like, how are you doing OT virtually? How are you doing physical therapy virtually? Like, how are you doing that? How can you actually progress, monitor a kid and support them? And that was like the biggest thing. Then, we're online and you're seeing some kids in some situations, it's camera off. And I'm like, are you okay? You know what I mean? Like, I actually had to call services one time. I've never had to do that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh. And how can me and my aides actually support these kids how we were in person? And that was like the hardest thing. And then literally it was us calling parents, figuring out a time on how we can support your kid. How can we still check in with your kid like we were? How can we still give them the academic support like we were? And like Tangeray said, on YouTube, I found myself, I was literally making a video for everything. I was uninstalling things on my computer, recording myself installing it so that parents would know how to support their kids at home with the tools we were using in school. I literally did that for everything. Then I'm like, how can I differentiate the instruction online? How can I color code this the way I was doing it in person? And I had to get creative. I just started highlighting in a different color. We're on this section today. Look for the pink section. You know what I mean? Things like that. But literally, I was making a video for every single thing we did. So don't say you don't know. Don't say I didn't show you. Don't say I needed to do. That was the only way I knew how to do it. And it was like doing that. And then having IEP meetings virtually. I'm like, oh my God, you need to make all IEP meetings virtually because honestly, that was very helpful for parents who have a strict work schedule. Like sometimes they can't really take off. They can just go in another room or when they're on their break or their lunch and have the IEP meeting. We share the screen. I already shared the draft. More people can come now. You can actually invite their outside therapists or outside related service providers. So it kind of, by everything being online, I'm like, I don't ever want to go back to in-person IEP meetings ever again. I want everything to be online. And that's how it was for me. And that's what I saw, with that. But then once we came back in person, some of the difficulties and challenges some of the kids had, I'm like, oh my God, you were in second grade when COVID hit. You were still learning how to read. And then you had to switch to virtual. So how much did you really master doing that virtually? That's what I'm seeing now in the schools.
All right. That is, and let me say this for the folks who are with us live, give us a hey, what's up, what's going on? And we also need you to tag 3 or 4 teachers in this post because we need some teachers to hear this. We're about to get into the meat of this. You're gonna get a lot of strategies out of this, and you're gonna get to hear how teachers are really being supported, how these PD dollars are being used, as well as ways to use the PD dollars. And so tag a few teachers in this. Help us out here. Good, we're giving you good information. Help us out by sharing this with 3 or 4 teachers that people who are in the school system. Bring administrators on here and let's talk about this because this right here, I need to talk about this topic. And I know, hey Jazzy Booth, hey. So this is a topic that we're gonna need to discuss, and I don't know where y'all stand at on this, but because we didn't prep this. This is all real live, raw conversation
in real time. Yes, ma'am.
In real time, because y'all know between all of us, we got about 60 years of experience right here on this call, if not more. And so let me say this: I've been seeing a lot of videos of students attacking these teachers and fighting these teachers and stepping into these teachers' personal space. And I have seen some very mild-mannered teachers and some teachers with some amazing self-control, and I don't even know what you call it, because I don't even know if Jesus would be that. I saw one lady, the girl was all in her face, was steady pushing her, and then tried to slam the lady to the ground. That could not be me. That was one of the reasons why I had to leave the school system, because what I'm gonna lose my job because I'm fighting back. You're not going to come as a child and beat me up. It seems as though the instances of this has really multiplied now, though, since students are back in school full time, which is very interesting because we've always been in school full time before COVID. We took 7-8 months out for virtual learning, and then we come back and folks have lost their ever-loving minds. But I just think that when I was a principal, I used to tell my teachers, save yourself and don't you stand here and let no kid beat you up. We are older, it takes longer for our bones to heal. And we're not gonna do this. What is y'all ideas and opinions on this? Because baby, I'm going to jail and I'm losing my job. And so since I'm gonna lose it anyway, I'm gonna need to get the real beating out of you because I'm losing my job. And I'm not even a fighter, but I'm not gonna say that you beat me up. But I've seen teachers let kids dog walk them all for the sake of their job.
No, it's culture stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah. I was just, because my last years in the classroom, I was an emotional support teacher. So I had kids who, they weren't that aggressive, but I had kids who could get aggressive. And I can remember there were times I was saying, you have to understand, for every action you do, there will be a reaction. And I cannot guarantee that this cashier will be the one to react to your action. So if you decide to put your hands on somebody, you have to be prepared for someone to put their hands back on you. So that was not that I'm beating up kids, but that was always my response to my kids, because I did not want them leaving me thinking I can have yes, you have meltdowns. You may have moments where you don't know how to control or regulate your emotions, but that is no excuse for you to put your hands on someone. And I said, there's no excuse. I don't ever want you to think that is okay, because that is not okay. And then at the same time, with COVID, you had, like Anika was saying, you had kids, they're in their environment full time. Some of their environments were not the healthiest environments. So some kids, all they see is that is the only way they know how to respond to when they don't get what they want. If someone tells them no, and then when they come back they're coming back into the school with that, they've been in that 100% consistently every day, and they don't have no one showing them a different way of how to self-regulate, how to cope. And then it's like, oh, here's your reality check because you're about to get these hands. That's your reality check. And it's but the thing is, it's like, sometimes I'm like, that's how you're going to wake up and see. You're going to have someone respond to you in that way for you to be like, oh, dang, that's what you're not supposed to. It's never okay to just scream, to just hit. It's not okay. And you can't expect everyone to be patient and understanding and care that, you know what, I have trouble with regulating my emotions. I don't know how to respond in a mature way. Don't nobody care. Me walking outside, no one's going to know, oh, I may have a problem or something like that. Nobody knows, and no one's going to care. And I used to tell my students that all the time. Nobody cares you have a disability or you have whatever. You have to utilize the tools that you have to help yourself. And if you are finding it so overwhelming that you go to an adult that you trust, but it is never okay to just put your hands on people. So I even looked at them like, I don't even know if I could. I think I would have lost my job too.
That part.
I was going to say, but that's real. Exactly what Jamila said. That was, in leadership, because, I do a lot of especially that age. I say the age range a lot. It is getting a little younger, but middle school, high school, right? In that upper elementary, they're starting to get busy and do too much as well, but largely middle and high. And I would talk to them and tell them, like, because they would love to say and try to use it as an excuse. Well, I have anger management issues. We all had to learn how to control it. We all do. So just even giving them that perspective, like, no, that's something you work on. You don't just say it and everybody's supposed to roll with it. And I would, support them in making sure they understood what their triggers are, right? If you have certain triggers, and like Jamila said, if there's certain things you're way outside of your scope, you can't regulate, you're having a hard time, we have spaces for that. We have adults to support you in that. But the reality is 2020, 2021, the kids were left to their own devices. So a lot of stuff was going unchecked. We're just here, we'll just get over there and sit down. Just, as long as you're not really bothering me too much. It was a lot of that / different spaces could have been chaotic for a lot of different reasons, right? A lot of different reasons, y'all know I'm in Texas, so a lot of different reasons, right? So yes, all the jazz hands and everything. But seriously, so from all these different perspectives, just making sure that they understand what is and is not okay, that we help them, that also having those moments of, I always say those moments of transparency, because a lot of times we've worked so hard as adults on this curated representative, right? Our representative self, that the kids don't know that what we've struggled with, that we had struggles. We might still be struggling with some things. They just see, oh, look at Miss Jones. Look how she showed up today. She looks nice. Her hair and earrings are nice. And it's just whatever, facade, whatever presentation we give them. So having and living in those real moments with them, like, yeah, I have to control my attitude as well. Like, yes, I don't believe that I should have to raise my voice because I don't want anyone to raise their voice at me. So just holding up that mirror to them often and having them do that mirror work. Like, we're not looking out a window, just watching the world go by. Like, I need you to interact and reflect with yourself on that as well, because life is too important. Your life is too important.
Child, I got a whole bunch of tea for this.
I know it.
So I currently teach elementary, so I haven't seen as much crazy as I used to do back in my middle school days, back when I was teaching back in my hometown, and I was teaching dance. So, they was trying to, come for my life. No, I'm no turkey, baby. You gonna get it. So, I saw that a lot my first year of teaching, where students was like throwing chairs at the teachers and what have you. And when I tell you I was young and crazy at that time, I'll be honest. And so I remember when I got those 8th graders that was throwing those chairs at teachers that first week of January, I remember having a real conversation. We are not dancing until we learn how to show respect. So, like, I had never had any professional development about procedures and all that. I just knew where I stood. And I knew at 24 years old, I personally had situations within myself of like, nah, if this child hit me, I'm going to lose my job today. And I knew that. So I'm like, well, how can I teach the children to ensure that they are regulating their emotions? Just being honest with them. Like, you hit me, that's not okay. You throw a chair at me, that's not okay. I wouldn't do that to you. Right. So y'all just took me back to my first year of teaching of like, Regina hands. Are they really throwing chairs?
And the lean in.
Right.
Like, who you talking to?
Right. Like, if I make this face at you, you better move on, child. You know what? Right. But what I took from that experience, like, I'll be honest, I had never had any child to hit me, to even cuss me out. That happened to other teachers, but it was because I decided to do things differently, of show children how to be respectful, even in the midst of conflict. Mm-hmm. One incident in particular that I remember, it was 2 young boys that was about to get ready to start fighting, but they did not fight because it was before I was married. Miss Weddle was standing in between them. But when I moved, the hands started throwing. But they came back and was like, Miss Weddle, again, this before I was married. Miss Weddle, we're so sorry for fighting in your classroom. Like, sorry about that. We didn't mean to. We wasn't thinking. I was like, I respect that apology. And it was because I showed them their respect, and I decided to teach them coping mechanisms for their anger that I wish somebody would have taught me as a kid. which is one reason why I'm a firm believer of using mindfulness in the classroom. Like, yo, breathe, baby. And we get on to children about not being able to self-regulate or handle their emotions, whether it's anger or sadness or even happiness. When they're super excited, all their energy just expands. We can't get mad at them because at school systems, we don't even teach self-regulations. You might have those couple of teachers like us on the screen that will, go the extra mile and like, baby, I need you to breathe. Fist to 5. Breathe in, breathe out. Fist to 5. Come on now. But it's not being taught as a school-wide situation. So
or the time to actually de-escalate. It's like, hurry up, calm down, because you gotta go to class. And it's like, that's not how it
Right.
works.
yes, or telling children
That's not how any of this works.
man up. Like I've heard teachers say to a child, elementary child at that was crying and upset about whatever the consequence was, man up, suck it up, stop crying. Like, first of all, the child is 7.
Okay.
He has every right to be upset at this consequence. Now, if he throw a tantrum on the floor, that's a little bit different. Like, no, baby, we ain't doing it like that. You can be upset, and that's my motto. You can be upset, but don't be disrespectful.
Yeah,
That's
look,
different.
and respectfully, we have all talked about the youth in this situation, but a lot of that, because we're going back to what Dr. D asked the question. I don't know. I literally don't understand what might be happening in your brain space that you're gonna stand there and let a young person, anybody, put their hands on you, push you, just whatever. So that goes back to also checking in with the adults, right? Because we did. I was like, I'm gonna let us finish, but we all talked about the youth, but we need to check in and really support, see what's going on with the adults first. Like, is this becoming a cultural thing that it's like, well, the kids are just wild, so we have to let them. Because we definitely have to go back to the factory settings. Then we got to reboot that, because that is not
Right.
that's not going to work. That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
Can we keep it honest? Some teachers, I'm just gonna say it, some teachers trigger children
Yeah.
on
Oh
purpose.
yeah. Oh yeah.
That's true. No, it's the truth. They poke the bear because it's like, I don't want you in my class. So let me agitate you so that you can react. So that way I can call so-and-so to get you out your class. It was a teacher that did that at the last school, and she actually referred to children of color as colors. And I'm like, where are we? What year are we in?
So
And you can come out your mouth to say, I don't like your daughter and your daughter don't like me.
and how old are you? That's what I'm saying. So even going back to, if we're checking, not just checking in to see where they are, but some need to be checked, period. Right? Because that's not okay. So who's having those conversations? Like, where do we begin to have those conversations, those trainers, those developments? Because for me, that's their social emotional intelligence. They need some help. They need some support. Y'all know how I say people have perspective problems. From your perspective, you think that's okay, and it's not.
Yeah, and also think about the idea, like when you say check in on the adult, because I can tell you that as a building principal with 55 educators who were my direct reports, I can honestly tell you that over half of them were on some type of medication each day before they came into that building. I had several who were suffering from bipolar disorder, manic depression, psychotic spasms. And I mean, they would come to inform me because if something happens, I need you to know. And I always had an open door policy. So when we talk about checking in, and teachers come in with so much stuff, like if your husband just got through, you just found out your husband cheated on you, and you come to work because we come to work anyway, and that kid is in your face, you might catch some hands today.
Right.
You come to work because you had to just bury your mama, you might catch some hands. And kids, like it's a whole situation. But then I also worry about new teachers who are coming in 22, 23, 24 years old, and they are stepping freshly into what I call this new era of teaching. How are you all supporting them, and what support do you see for them?
That just made me think back to like the conversation we just had about like teachers triggering students. I've recently spoken to a teacher in regards to like, this is how you manage children with different behavior tendencies. you don't give in to, you know, that energy, you know, emotional constancy. So that's one thing that I've been pushing in the space of like, yes, you are a human, you do have feelings. Yes, the child should not be disrespecting you, this, that, and the other, but how are you showcasing emotional constancy while this child, fourth, fifth grader, is spiraling? Are you adding fuel to the fire, or are you stepping back? So that's definitely one thing that I can think of just giving those tips and tricks that I've learned throughout my 10 plus years of educating. What's in my toolbox? Let me give you some of this, baby. You need to do the fist to five with the child so you can also calm down. So that was just one that just popped in my head because we were just talking about the students as well.
Yeah, one of the things and conversations I've had with because definitely I was like a new teacher I've supported this year on her campus, a new math educator. Definitely was having some struggles with regulating, right? So if we're fresh out, like Dr. D said, 22, 23, 24, the first thing that not only reminding them, but also those around them is that technically they're still in adolescence. We see them as an adult, but technically they're at the top of adolescence because they're still working on their decision-making part of their brain until 25. Y'all know that's when your insurance rates go down. It's because you can finally make good decisions and things, right? So with that in mind, with newer teachers, we worked on workflows, but it was really based around decision making. Especially, you know, so teaching math in that math space. Okay, so how are we deciding which manipulatives to use? How are we deciding on our grouping? Is that most conducive? All right, is this a class that we know is a little more chatty? What other approaches to that particular lesson can we use to still get the job done, but maybe they can't move as much because they're very chatty. They like to dance in between, right? So just helping them with some of their decision-making workflows, because that is where a lot of the shenanigans and issues happen with the decisions, right? Because they didn't have any, like Tangeray said, those conversations, they didn't have that frame of reference to expect certain things. So when it pops up, I'm freestyling and you're going to get what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I would say, for me, like with new teachers, I want to say a lot of my focus has been on the management management of your classroom. And I would say for the most part, and I share this on another live, you really have to do what works for you. Like you may see something that I'm doing, but I can do that because that's part of my personality. That's part of me. And I know I can be consistent with it. It's something that I stress to new teachers. You got to be consistent with whatever you do. You can't be like, oh, I'm tired of this and get lazy with it. You have to do something that you know you can keep up with and do. And I said you have to implement it from the first day and be consistent every day thereafter with it. If you say the consequence is this, then you have to follow through with it. The kids see that you are following through whatever you said you're going to do. Because if you don't, they're going to be like, oh, she ain't going to do nothing. She whatever, or he whatever. He whatever. I can do whatever I want to do in the classroom. But when they see you say, I'm calling your mom, and you actually pull them and you call their mom or you do whatever, they're like, oh, shoot, I got to make sure I really do X, Y, Z. So I say for the most part, it is a lot of just management, because I feel like you get your management together is going to help you in your instruction, is going to help you in other facets of your just your job. And then another thing is what I found is in some places you have some teachers who got the job just because they needed a job.
Mm-hmm.
And you low key are afraid of your students. And honestly, you shouldn't be here. So on that aspect, it's like you gotta be real with yourself. Are you here to really teach these kids, or are you here for a job? Because before we even go into management, you need some mindset work. You need some mindset work done, because how can you serve and teach kids that you are afraid of? How can you approach certain staff members and not others and make an assumption? Oh my God, she's always aggressive. Is it really her? Is that you? That's what you're perceiving from her because you're afraid to go talk to her.
Mm-hmm. That part.
That's something else I've seen too.
Right. And that just made me think of like one of the programs that we do with Cultivated Connections is we start with the mindset work. Because in the art space, we have a lot of amazing, talented artists, but it doesn't always transition great to being a teacher. Just because you can keep that leg up real high, that does not mean you need to be in somebody's K-12 school or studio for that matter. matter, right? So with us, we really focus on that mindset first. Why are you here? Why are you doing this work? What is your teaching philosophy? Why do you even want to teach? It doesn't even matter like the grade level. Why do you want to show up every day to share your love and your gift to the world or to this group of students, right? Whether they're adults or itty bitty people. Why? What's your point to this? So we start there, and then we get into the nitty gritty of the planning of like, what do you want your classroom to look like? Yes, your dance class or your music class is going to look and feel different from the gen ed classes, but that doesn't mean you don't have the buzzword high expectations for your students. No, that doesn't mean they get a chance to opt out of not doing the work. They don't opt out of math class. They don't opt out of dance class. Get your life. Like, you might not know how to do it. And I tell my students this, like, to this day, you might not know how to do what I'm asking you to do, but you must try. And I have that same expectation for the teachers that I work with. You might not know what in the world I'm talking about right now, but you must try. You have to try, or you're gonna fail. And failure isn't a bad thing, but try so we can support you. So yeah, mindset first. You gotta start the mindset first and really thinking through like, what is it that I want in this space? How do I want my students to receive me? Not like me. That's different. You don't have to like me, but you do have to receive this energy that I'm going to give you. So what energy am I giving out to my students? So that's just a little thing, little situation.
Listen, I'm listening to what both. Oh, I'm sorry, Dr. D.
Go ahead.
I was like just listening to what both Jamila and Tangerine said. When Jamila was saying being yourself, that's its own. And I'm going to age myself as an educator. Yeah, I remember at a certain point, everybody had to read Harry Wong's the first 100 days of school. And
Absolutely.
I genuinely remember reading that and was like, yes, being super solid on your systems, procedures, routines. But he talked about not smiling for the first 100 days. Now, listen, when I'm listening, I'm always very leaned in and focused, listening to someone, but I smile naturally when I talk. And I was like, how am I supposed to not smile? And so, so just really going back to what Jamila said, making sure you're being authentic for yourself. Like later on, I've had children write me letters, they had me for a math teacher and say, Ms. Jones, I used to hate math, but on that first day of class, you smiled and said, I'm going to make sure you're successful. And that was just a whole different tone, but it was just me being myself. Imagine had I tried to go in there and execute Mr. Wong's plan, like they would have had a whole different experience from day one again. And then what Tangerine said, the mindset work, because like she said, maybe you were a rocket, you can do that high kick, but that's not going to translate to class. That's what happens in our work at Holistic Fluency in the corporate spaces, because, you get the promotion because you were meeting your quotas, right? That doesn't mean that you have the skill set to lead the team though. So that is what we help you with your mindset, from transferring from being a great individual contributor to no, and I have to make sure again to duplicate, to multiply, and to replicate these results over and over and over, because I'm giving people the tools and strategies that they need. That's a huge mindset shift, because it was very much me, and it suddenly has to be we, and we're not speaking French, right? It's a big deal for a lot of people. It's a big deal.
Mm-hmm. And I love that you mentioned the Harry Wong thing of not smiling the first 100 days, because I was taught that when I went to the gen ed space.
I couldn't do it.
Y'all know me. When am I not smiling?
Right. I was like,
so I felt in the spaces that I've taught prior to teaching elementary, and someone told me that of like, be still. Like what's the charter school saying? Stand up and stand still, or square up and stand still, and like staying grounded.
Square up is something different when I first heard people say it, but it
means we're about to fight. It was like going to war.
That part, it was that, and also being told not to smile. And when I attempted to live in this box of all of these taxonomies that emulate a great teacher, right? I lost myself because it wasn't naturally me. And I was also learning who I was at 24, 25. You know what I'm saying? Like Anika always talk about adolescence age. That's when your bill go up at 25. So I was still figuring out who I was as a woman, let alone a teacher. And you're telling me, oh, don't move. Don't smile in the first 100 days. And I listened to that and I struggled. it wasn't until I transitioned to a different space that although kind of lived on some of those principles, I was encouraged to smile and be my naturally bubbly self and be animated. And y'all, when I tell you I started thriving and wanted to show up to work every day because I could be me with my head wraps and my smile and my joy. That's why I talk about, like, how do your students receive you? How do you receive you? Period, boo.
Yeah,
How do you?
yeah. And I had the same thing. I had a teacher come to me, same thing. Like, she was like, Jamila, don't smile, don't show your teeth. And I'm like, and again, y'all know me, I laugh all the time, I'm smiling all the time. And I'm like, but how will the kids know my personality? How will they get to know me? And it's like, again, I kind of did that. And I was just like, it felt like, I'm not being myself. And this is hard to keep up with. Like, it's not natural for me to not smile. It doesn't come natural for me to do that. And it's like, I feel like, and then as I just learned and grew, I was like, I have to do what's best for me. I got to be consistent with it. And that's how it helps me to also build rapport with the students I'm servicing. I got to be myself.
Yeah.
I got to be myself. I like to joke with kids, but it's like after they've learned, what our systems are going to be, then I may do a chuckle here and there with you, but I have to be myself because I have to show up as myself. Because if I show up as somebody else, it becomes more than a job. This is a chore now, and I don't want to do it.
Exactly. And kids know when you're not being real with
And
them.
they're gonna
children
test you.
know.
They're gonna test you and make
They
you
gonna
double
test
down. And triple
They'll
down.
say, "Are you okay?"
And quadruple down.
Some of them will straight out say, "Are you okay?"
Right.
Straight out say, "Are you okay?" Are you okay?
But I
That
wonder,
made me think of
I wonder how are teachers, especially the newer ones, and just like we talk about how, we read Harry Wong and all of that foolishness about not smiling. And I'm sure that the mindset behind it served a purpose at that time. But as time goes on,
Yeah.
we realize that those things no longer serve a purpose. And there are a lot of things that are still happening in the school system that no longer serve a purpose, but we continue to do. And we even have school leaders who come in who still believe don't smile, who don't know who they are, who are not serving authentically. And so how can, they can't be themselves. And so they don't expect teachers to be able to be themselves. And so it creates this circular situation. But a lot of the things that we see happening in the school system is happening because we refuse to change. How are you all helping educators to be able to embrace their authenticity and to move into 2023 in a way that gives them a semblance of work-life balance and helps them to avoid some of the teacher burnout?
I would say that's a biggie, and that's something that I've said often. I'm like, so many other professions have had their advancements, but like, where's the glow up for education? Like, where is our glow up? Because I feel like we're still doing the same thing, and like even in the spec space, I'm like, you're servicing kids the same way every single year, every single year, every single year. These kids are different. They're different. Each year you get different kids, different parents. Why are we still doing the same thing like it's gonna work for them? It's not. And I'll say for me, and like in a lot of my coaching spaces, like the biggest thing is like I'm always telling teachers, what do you want to do? What is the goal for your students? What is the goal you want out of this year? What is it that you want to do? Because the district, whatever your district, your network, they can suck the passion you have for whatever it is you want to do, really, and really make you not want to be here no more, make you not want to do it. So, in a lot of my sessions, we're focusing on their particular goals, the goals that they have for their students, and then also I incorporate, okay, what are you doing for your joy this week? What are you doing for your joy this week? Because it can't always be work, 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 work. Like, yes, the IEP coach, we're here to support you with your work. We're gonna, help you with that. But outside of work, what brings you joy and what are you scheduling for your joy this week? Because that may be the thing that help you get through this week. that can help you get through next week. So what is your joy? So, and that was something that it took me years to learn
Mhm.
how to do, because I used to take work home with me. I'm like, and I got to the point, and this is something I stress to teachers, it can wait till tomorrow. Well, you coming to work tomorrow, right? Okay, it'll get done tomorrow. And if it don't get done tomorrow, it'll get done day after that. Like, don't stress yourself out, and don't, because you still have to make sure you have enough of yourself to take home to your family, and also just have enough of yourself for yourself. You know what I mean? So I also stress scheduling joy.
Oh, Jamila, you look, I'm a hit dog and I'm hollering because that was so me, especially early on in my education life. Like literally, y'all, like like we had the little rolly bags because the papers were so many and so heavy, especially teaching math. I was at a Super Bowl game, y'all. Y'all believe I was in the corner looking up, talking about grading papers? Y'all believe that at a Super Bowl party? Right. Like
I could
that's
believe it because
but that's how deep it was, but really had to get a grip. So that is one of the first things I tell new teachers. Listen, you're never going to get your whole to-do list done. It is not a real thing. There's always going to be, even if you felt like, oh, I wrote a few things down, I got that done, let me work on something. There's always going to be something to do. You're never going to get all the things done on any given day. Do what you can, go home, have your balance, right? Then come on back, like Jamila said, pick it up tomorrow, because thinking you're going to get through every single thing, that every single thing is going to be perfect and closed, grades updated, grades. No, it's just not. It's not a thing. So that's something that I think is very different about education in that way, is that it's never all the way done 100% on any given day. But in this space now, 2023, 2022, y'all, talking to these newer teachers about leveraging technology to maximize their time, that has been huge. With everything from the scheduling, class dojo messages to go out, the remind 101s, you have homework you send home every Monday, schedule that out. Just go ahead and go, you made it on Friday, go ahead and attach the assignment, schedule it to go out. So just really just automating things and using tech as much as possible. And so those systems and routines are rolling. And yes, definitely understanding that the work will be there tomorrow.
yes, ma'am. Everything she just said. And I'm glad you mentioned tech because I was going to mention it myself. I wish somebody introduced technology to me. Woo, at the beginning years of my teaching experience, from what's that, Remind 101, just to send out a mass text message to the families versus calling them. Lord, I wish I would have known about that in my first few years of teaching. Didn't find out about them till like year 5. Also, like you mentioned, how these amazing, are they the millennials, Anika?
Some of them are millennials, young millennials, and Gen Z, the Zoomers.
Yeah, the Gen Zers, the Zoomer babies. They are like using all of these amazing apps to like schedule their time, their joy, setting boundaries. I use them and tell my mentees, like, I need to physically see that you have carved out when you're going to take your next art class, dance class, guitar class, whatever that hobby is that you want to thrive in or enjoy just for the fun of it. Like, I need to see it on the calendar, and I check for that first versus when are you going to get report cards in. Report cards are due regardless, but I need for you to schedule in yourself. So that's one thing that I've pushed my mentees or coaching students to do, is like, make sure, like Jamila said, scheduling joy, scheduling you in there, scheduling date nights. Oh my gosh. Right? You're dating that person to stay with that person. You got married to stay married. Schedule. Those are some of the big things, like leveraging technology, leveraging apps and things like Notion and Trello to create a beautiful space to house your curriculum. That way, all you got to do is go back in there and type it. Ain't nobody writing in these lesson plan books no more. Stop writing. Or if that's how you process, write it first and then convert. Like, that's how you process. I can't check your brain.
And so, Tangeray, you also do a lot with tech. What do you have upcoming that might support teachers or even consultants in that tech realm?
Yes. So I do have a workshop coming up April 28th, and it is called Organize, Plan, and Execute. Thank y'all for the claps, y'all. Organize, Plan, and Execute, maximizing your life using digital apps. or digital organization. And it's just really speaking to, there's so many apps. Yes, Google Classroom and all the Google G Suite is amazing.
Right.
But I'm gonna come for it for a quick second. I'm gonna come for it, okay? But it's not the only space that you can thrive in, right? Like, you find other apps that allow you to automate, just like Miss Anika said, to automate your life, to constantly be on repeat, that can integrate other things. Like, I personally love Notion. I'm about to put a Notion plug up in here because it integrates with everything else. With the Google Calendar, like my Google Calendar is in there. It integrates with Google Drive, all those different things. Like, maximize your technology, and we are not doing that. We are not doing that to help save our own sanity in our lives. So yes, April 28th, last day to register is April 27th. I'm gonna drop this link. So, come on get into it. And we have a lesson plan or a curriculum planning document coming out this summer for y'all. Okay.
And that leads right into Rhonda says that they have to plan together and type ours as a team and turn it in. It's crazy. We're planning activities and lessons for 300 plus kids as if they are the same or have the same needs.
That's where arts integration come to play. It touches every student and every scholar, no matter the disability, the language. So, if you need some arts integration techniques and strategies there, come holler at your girl. Come holler at Cultivated Connections Design and Consulting. And there's also this situation of how we're leveraging technology to touch those scholars too. Even if they don't have a computer at home, how can you do that in your classroom, whether it's an arts classroom or what have you? How are we giving access to learning to all students?
Yeah,
it's fun.
And I would definitely say for Rhonda, because I was in that situation as well, where I had a very outdated administrator who wanted and I was an English teacher. And so he wanted us to all plan together. We all, go in on our plan period and actually plan the lesson together. And it really boils down to, we just had to decide this is not a good use of time. The goal is that the administrator wants the lesson plan from the full English department that's the same. And so we decided to come together on one day to talk about what are the activities we need to plan, who are the kids who have IEPs, who we need to make sure we're meeting their accommodations. And then one person would take the leadership to create the plan and copy all of us on it. And we would start doing rotation. So in a month, each person would end up doing one lesson plan, but we would come together one day each week to discuss what are the activities, what are the things we're going to do for accommodations, and then one person would create the plan, and we had a format that we created. So again, that utilizing that tech, having a uniform layout of what the lesson plan is, and then taking leadership. Like, you can't just sit back waiting on everybody else. And I had to come up with the plan. Like, I was like, this doesn't make sense that all four of us are, typing 4 different lesson plans, doing 4 different researches on activities, coming in with all these different ideas. It was not a good use of time. So someone has to take ownership. And yeah, someone's going to end up doing more work than the other, but that's where you lean into your strengths. For me, I'm extremely strategic. And so why would I sit back and let them struggle and fight through when I come up with strategies super easy? Like Jamila is the IEP coach. She should already be coming in with some strategies and some ways to adjust for the accommodations that need to happen in the gen ed class. And so, it's going to require somebody stepping up, but it also requires you being willing to say, and again, that's about your belief system. I believe that time is our most valuable asset. And if I got to waste my time, I don't think the other 3 should have to. So I'm going to go ahead and waste my time so y'all can save time. And then next week, she's going to waste her time so that us 3 can save time. So that's kind of how I dealt with that. Jamila, what do you have regarding that?
In regards to, that's how it works in regards to, and that's something that I always did. And when it came to planning time, it was always, and I feel like when you work in STEM, you always have a STEM brain. So that's always on your mind. Like, is this kid being properly accommodated? What does the IEP say? And it gets to the point you memorize what each kid has, so you can easily just add those things to the IEP, or even when there are school-wide activities, and this is something I had to share with a principal, and I'm like, how is so-and-so going to do that? They have severe speech impediments. They're not going to get their words out quick enough in order to complete this activity. You change it. Because he was like, "Oh, I didn't even think about that." I'm like, "I know you didn't think about it. That's why I'm here. I'm thinking about it.
Right.
You know, just making them aware of things like that." So yeah.
And so, yes, so we get it. Like Rhonda says that her principal is a micromanager. Like, and I will tell you all this. I'm gonna tell you this from being in communion with probably at least 60 principals. Okay. Yeah, a lot of times what you think in your head is not true. It's not true. Like, you will think that your principal is micromanaging you and always thinking about you and always trying to get into your classroom, when really it's not true. I had a teacher who swore like that I was out to get her. Do you know I barely knew that lady existed? Do you know that I had a third grade teacher and a kindergarten kid who was out of control? And that is literally where my time went to. And like, I wandered into her class one day and her class was out of control. I didn't care. I had a kid that was terrorizing a kindergarten teacher down in the kindergarten room. It was accidental that I ended up in there. And it happens that the next day, she was on my evaluation list. When we create our evaluation schedule, it's random. There is no, like, I'm going here. No, I got to get 55 teachers evaluated. I'm going to create this schedule on July 22nd before y'all even in school. And something happened the day before when I was supposed to be in there. So I just moved you over to the next day. I went into her classroom, but I had just stumbled into her classroom the day before that. And it was chaotic. Classrooms are chaotic sometimes. And then I showed up the next day for her eval. She connected the two and instantly thought that I was out to get her. I did the eval, called her in for the follow-up. I thought it went pretty decent. Like, who has a perfect classroom where there's never anything to say? So, and overall, it was a good evaluation. I was like, yeah, you're good to go. I'll come back in, blah, blah, blah. Then it was time we were in a PLC meeting and we're going over data. And there were a couple of things that were standing out in her data. And, you just ask a couple of questions like, well, what's happening? What supports do you need? She was connecting all of these things. And keep in mind, these things happened over like a 6 to 8 week time period. It was like 3 or 4 events. And she linked all of those things together. And for like 2 years, she was under the impression that I was out to get her. And when her colleague finally came and told me, like, the lady was near a nervous breakdown, and I was like, are you serious? I was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And then when she ran down the events to me, I was like, no, I was supposed to be in the classroom next door to her. And I ended up in her room. And then I stood there and I was looking crazy because I'm trying to figure out, where's this kid I'm looking for? I turn around, I go out, and I'm heading down to the kindergarten. So when they ran through it, I was like, she pieced all of that together. So I say that to say, administrators often have these conversations about how teachers will think that they are more important than they really are. Like, we got a whole life. We don't really care about what y'all doing. And when there are situations, we're not going home talking about you. Most of us, I'm gonna say, you do have a few petty principals. Now, let's be honest. But for the most part, we're trying to save our own jobs. Like, we're trying to run our own households. We're trying to do our own thing. And so, yeah, it may be an issue, but we're not like going home talking about it at the dinner table. It's a bigger issue in the teacher's head than it is most times in the administrator's mind. So I would say, do what you're gonna do. If they're going to fire you, they're gonna fire you anyway. Like, I knew within the first 30 days of school what teacher I'm letting go this year. Like, in the first 30 days, I already knew. I was like, she probably ain't gonna make it. And most times, like, you have that intuition, you have that gut, and especially if you've had years of experience, you kind of know. And it may not even be that you're not a good teacher, it may be that you're not a good fit. So like in my school system, they were very militant. We were trying to change that to teach kids to be free and to be leaders. But if I have teachers who are extremely militant, I got to move you on unless you adopt this new mindset. We're not raising our hands to go to the bathroom. We're not walking on one blue line and one yellow line to get a straight line down the hallway. That's not what we believed in our school. But the previous principal believed that. And so I wanted kids to be free. What other place in the world do you raise your hand to go to the bathroom? Nowhere.
Yep, you're right.
And that's not what we do. And like, you want water. Okay, we want to teach you responsibility so you get up and you are able to go get your drink of water and come back in. Are things going to happen? Absolutely. And we're going to have things in place for when those things happen. But when you have a teacher who that is not what she believes, that's not the mindset she's adapting, we got to let you go. We got to move you on to somewhere that's going to fit more comfortably for you. So I would just say, go on, do what you're going to do, because they're going to do what they want to do anyway. And if they're going to let you go, they're going to let you go. And there's no need to keep trying to please people who you don't have what they need. And it's 132,000 schools out here. We got to stop thinking that we can only work at this one school. There are schools that would love to have you, that will be blessed by what you bring to that school. And you just got to be willing to get out of your comfort zone. Because trust me when I say, the principal going to do what they going to do. You can stop even believing that you can sway them a different way, because you can't.
Alignment.
So tell me this before we begin to wrap up. And I want Jamila to tell us about her IEP course, because one of the things that I have definitely noticed and was a part of and experienced is that those IEPs be long. And a lot of times I don't be having time. Like, I'm just going to be honest, even as a classroom teacher, at one point I had, in a class of 20, I had 5 IEPs. Now that's a lot for us. Like, that was a lot. And I know y'all in Philly and working in New York and all these places, and y'all numbers might be higher, but we don't have classrooms of 40 and 50 kids. At my school, we had a standard of 18, and then we got to 20. And baby, when I was at 22, I was about to pull my hair out. Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it was. And so when you got 5 IEPs and you need to understand all 5 of them, know the accommodations for 5 of them, and that's just in one class. Remember, I was secondary, so I had 8 classes of this. So my workload was normally 125 students. And out of that 125 students, I would have roughly about 25 IEPs. And so as a classroom teacher, tell us about this, because it's a lot. And I can't imagine for a SPED teacher.
It is a lot. I would say my biggest case, though, when I was in the classroom, I had about 24. And like I tell you all the time, when you're a SPED teacher, you're a SPED teacher and a case manager. So I had 24 kids. I was responsible for doing the IEP, doing the progress monitoring, making sure the teachers were aware of their accommodations and all that, on top of teaching my classes too. So it is a lot. And then for gen ed teachers who, you don't really look at an IEP, like that, or you're just like, sometimes you're looking for the SPED teacher to tell you, okay, what does this kid need? And that's extra work too on a SPED teacher. And then you have a lot of new teachers, gen ed and SPED. They've never really gone through an IEP, because in college you don't really go through an IEP. You don't. It's not until you really start working. So we created the Master IEP course, where we teach teachers as well as parents how to go through the IEP from beginning to end. So it's literally us breaking down an IEP section by section, so that you understand what goes in each section. You understand what goes behind making goals, what goes behind figuring out what's the best placement for their students. So by the end of the course, and it's a 3-part course, by the end of it, when I tell you the transformation from clients, it's like, oh my God, I didn't know it was this much. And then it's like, oh my God, I know I can speak up now in these meetings. I know I can do XYZ. Like it's truly transformational, and it's so helpful because it helps you get a better understanding of why it's so important to implement these accommodations, modifications in the classroom, and also that it's important for you to speak up at IEP meetings because you teach this kid. So it's very important for you to know what their IEP is and what it entails. So we are launching our course relaunching our course April the 25th. So you can go to www.mastertheiep.com/get on the list. That is our wait list. So that way you'll be the first to know when the course goes live because we're doing it online. So that way you can go at your own pace. You have a Facebook group. It's going to be so much. We're doing a whole live stream. We're doing a whole live stream launch on the 25th at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're going to go into all the details about the course, and also make sure you get on the list because not only will you be the first to know when it goes live, but we like to do bonuses and things. So make sure you get on that list so that way you can get those bonuses too.
All right. So those of you all, go ahead and get on her list right now. Go ahead and join her list because y'all know I love a good bonus. But when I say that sometimes hearing it in a different way makes all the difference, go ahead and get on the list. And if you know a teacher who is a SPED teacher or who is new to teaching, we want to get them on the list too, because they need to know how they can be supported. And a lot of these educators don't know how to get the support that they need. So definitely get on the list. And then Anika, what you got coming up?
Listen, so I'm always like the girls know, Tangerine, Jamila know that I feel like almost life is a case study sometimes. So I'm always soaking up information. So I'm listening to what Jamila was talking about, going through the IEP, and I was looking at Rhonda's comment talking about 10 IEPs in the class of 18, because I'm like, first of all, that's out of order. And I'm sure that the district/campus is getting deemed because the percentage is too high, right? Two, that also means to me that it's some mindset work again, some strategies that need to be in place to make sure that first, SPED is not the goal. Jamila's talked about this. That getting a student assigned to special education is not the goal, and that there's certain strategies and stuff that's in place beforehand. So a lot of really what we're in the midst of right now, we're doing a parent series with Austin ISD, right? We had our first installment. We have 3 pieces. And we're really just getting those strategies and some understanding. When we say understanding, just basic awareness. That's where we have to start. A lot of times people, they don't know what they don't know, basically, or they haven't looked at it through a certain lens. And that's our specialty, y'all, at Holistic Fluency. Like we always say, people have perspective problems sometimes, but we really add value in giving that insight and perspective. So we're working on some parent series. Most of the time, we really do a lot of work with middle school, adolescents, well, all the way through. So 10 to 25, let me be clear. That's what the age for adolescence is, 10 all the way through 25. And we're relaunching our course, our recipes, rite of passage course. And so, y'all, we're remixing it. It's coming back better than ever. Like it was already good, right? Because it's a Holistic Fluency production. But when I tell you it's coming back better than ever, we add a lot more interactive components to help the young people, yes, with their awareness, with their communication and conflict resolution, with their advocacy, right? Being able to advocate appropriately for yourself, social advocacy, all the things that are important to them, and just really tuning in. Because again, going back to even what Dr. D said earlier, right? And we can't expect to keep doing the same thing when we have a different group of people. So that's the one reason that the recipes rite of passage course is transformational, because it transforms within itself, because it's different groups, different waves of young people coming through all the time. So that's the work. So in the corporate spaces, same kind of thing, working with teams, working with the parents. That's really, we're just trying to close the lens. Like if youth is very, very important to all of us, I know I definitely have a special heart for the adolescents, right? A lot of people roll their eyes and suck their teeth, but we're responsible for them. We're the generation before. Those are our kids. We're responsible, right? But just trying to make sure that they're wrapped 360. They might be getting certain things at school. So we're making sure that we also add value and give those strategies and skills at home to balance everybody out. to help everybody speak the same language, add some consistency, some stability in those spaces. So, yes.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I'll say is, as educators, we've been in the education system. We have vast experiences, and all of us excelled in the education system. We're amazing teachers, award-winning, highly sought after, and decided we're going to help other teachers who are new to the work or who have weaknesses in the areas that we have strength. I need us to all remember that we're all in this together. While we may be outside of the school system, as far as the work that we do the work inside the school system, which gives us a greater influence, because y'all know school systems don't listen to the people inside the school system. So we're all in this together. Right now, teachers are lacking support. And the pay, we're not going to even talk about that, because when you get tired of that low pay they're giving you, baby, come on over to Educators Moving On and become a consultant, because we're not doing that no more. But these challenging work conditions, it breaks my heart for teachers. And the lack of autonomy, that's what Rhonda is talking about. A lack of autonomy, being able to teach your class the way you believe that it should be taught. And I'm highly concerned about the younger teaching staff who are coming in, who have, some great new innovative ways of being and doing. However, there are some things that do need to remain intact. There are some things that keeps the system strong. And so I think that the work that you ladies are doing is absolutely amazing. It's so much needed. And we need to share with other teachers, other school systems, how they can find people who are doing this work, who understand this work, and who is true to the work. Like, these are not big corporations out here just wanting to get these big contracts from school systems. These folks are going in, dedicating their time, taking their wisdom, and really supporting these teachers at a high level. And so you all can help by sharing this message, by connecting people to this live. If you know someone who needs support in the SPED space, you got the IEP coach. She has worked in several systems, done some amazing work. Anika just told you about all of the work that she's doing. These folks are in major school systems. She's talking about Austin ISD. Girl, I heard your little flex. I heard you. And your last work was in Louisiana, right?
Yeah, a charter school there. So working there with their math team and their coaches. So again, always working on their organizational culture, and especially working with the newer educators there. So all of this is very fresh. It's very fresh, and I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
And it's hard for, like, one of the most frustrating things is when that's what made me get into consulting. When they sent that young girl into my building to teach that, she was teaching them how to do that reading assessment, Fontes and Pinnell, and she was sitting there saying this crazy stuff. And I was like, girl, no, wait a minute. That's not what needs to happen today. It's going to take them 6 weeks to get these kids tested. We got 6 weeks. And then I started talking to her, and she explained to me that she had done 1 year of teaching, basically got fired because she didn't have any classroom control, got hired by an education company. And now she's coming in, messing folks up, telling them how to do these assessments that wasn't right. And when she told me what she was getting paid, I was like, wait a minute, sis, you're making more than me. Wait a minute, I'm the building principal. What's happening here? And so I was like, oh, so they just pulling people off the street. Like, all you need to do is apply, be able to do some reading and some writing, and they sending you in. But when the teachers would ask her questions about, well, how
was it ready?
5 kids at one time, and
you can't answer the question.
She wasn't ready, right?
Yeah, then I got the lash back from it, because then now they're saying, I don't know how I'm supposed to get these kids tested, because my person who was training them could not relate to anything that they were saying, and you all can relate to it.
Because they don't know.
Right.
They don't.
Right.
No, they don't know. And it makes me think of like a conversation that I've had with other fellow reading teachers. Like, I've taught kindergarten, I've taught 6th grade, and of course, y'all heard me mention I've taught dance. And when teachers started to mention about like their inability to get children to access the text and think about the character feelings and motives and all those other character things, character actions and dialogue, I was like, y'all are not learning how to truly tap into the character, if you will. Like, I'm a diehard fan of arts integration. Y'all heard me say that, but specifically theater education
Mhm.
with literacy. Like, that is my favorite skill to share of how can we use theater education or theater strategies, if you will, and movement strategies to promote literacy. Why are we separating the two? You can hit more children with one little arts pedagogy of like, hey, let's do a reader's theater. Like, that's one of my favorite strategies. Let's do a reader's theater. You, as a teacher, you can create your own script using the content that you was going to teach anyway. Have the children just, practice the lines as if they're actors. And that's where you get the expression, the tone, the dialogue. Baby, don't join me on live, please.
Yeah, I mean, the integration is essential. It's essential in everything. Think about, because I know when you and I have talked about that, there's nothing that we do in education where we isolate stuff. So why, when it comes to, just interdisciplinary things, when it comes to assessment styles, when it comes to, even automating and just thinking about your day, why approach that in isolation? When we don't do it anywhere else in our lives, it doesn't make sense to do it anywhere else in our life. So anyway, because y'all know I'll keep talking. I like to talk. I'm trying to,
but that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And what Dr. G was saying when that person came in, I can believe it because I could sit back and think of all the horrible PDs I was in. I'm like, this is a waste of time. Like, this is who you paid. Like, this is who you paid, and it came back another year. Like, they was bad the first time. We didn't need them to come back another time.
For the remix.
To let us know that it was bad. Yeah.
And the remix didn't taste no better.
Didn't.
No, it did not. It did
not. Y'all, the links are in the comments. Click the links, get signed up, get on the wait list. Tangeray has an upcoming workshop. You want to be in her workshop. Listen here. She is a real trainer, and she loves this tech stuff. And she will help you get your life. She will help you to get organized. And she know how to match colors and make it look good. Look here.
Yes, she does.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're looking to really up-level your teaching, you're looking to get any training or support, or you know someone who is looking for these things, share the links with them. Send it to a few teachers. Tell them to check out the links and, try to help other teachers because teachers are struggling, and because many teachers are well educated and a lot of them are, perceived, how teachers are perceived as noble people and having all of the answers. A lot of times we won't ask for help. That's okay. Go ahead and just copy the link, send a quick email or send a text and say, hey, saw this today. It was really good. Why don't you go ahead and check it out? We don't always have to sit back and wait for people to ask for help. Go ahead and send the link to a few teachers that you know so that they can get the support, and tell them to share the link as well. This is really how we're going to change education. We can sit and complain, moan, and groan all we want to. You are still going to be in that school system with these mental health issues and school shootings and testing expectations and the stress and burnout and the high teacher turnover. And what we're going to help you be able to do is to have strategies that really work, that we're going to show you how to advocate for yourself. We're going to help you to bring fun back into the classroom, joy back into your life, and to figure out how to balance things out for yourself and how you can show up in an authentic way. But we can only do that by sharing information. So folks, we know that teachers are the least likely to share because we've been taught to close our door, do a great job, and you don't want the teacher next to you to do better than you or to outscore you. And so we got to get out of that mindset.
Then they become instructional coaches, though, from that.
Exactly. And they reward the behavior. You got it, by making them instructional coaches. And so, we got to start sharing the information. That's really how we're going to change the school system. So I want to thank you all for coming on here, having this conversation. I've had a good time. Look, I was listening so hard. Look, I was all leaned into the screen because I was listening hard. This has been a really great conversation. I really hope that you all enjoyed, and I hope that the audience realizes that these are hours out of our day away from our families that we're not spending time, doing the things that we could otherwise be doing in order to share this information, in order to inspire you all, in order to tell you how you can be supported. So please be willing to show the same respect and share the links with other people. Let other people know, and follow these folks on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. Come on now, follow them. Get them a follow, because we appreciate y'all. Show us some appreciation too. And teachers, thank y'all so much for the hard work that you do. Baby, I had to come on out. I couldn't keep doing it. I did it for almost 20. I couldn't keep going, but I went back, and I'm giving back in a different way. And you can too. And these ladies are giving back and working in the system as well as working on the system. Indeed. So thank y'all for joining us. And
thank you.
We'll expect to hear an update on all the things that you all have coming up, and we will see y'all in Facebook land on another day. Y'all have a good, happy Sunday.